It's kind of a normal week now at this point, Rube. A walkthrough on Wednesday, right?
It was. I guess there was a measure of normalcy. Now we can't go to practice. There's one pool reporter there at each practice, but I think from the players I talked to, they were just kind of happy to be back in their routine. They still had a lot of media obligations, but they were on the practice field down at the Cards facility in Tempe, where it doesn't sound like the field was in great shape.
Yeah, we both talked to some players who said they were sliding around a little bit.
Yeah, so not an ideal practice field, but they said it was a really good practice. It was a walkthrough, as it has been for about, almost 2 months now, every Wednesday. But full speed to the ball, Dave, as Nick has told us several thousand times. So, yes, I think for a lot of these guys, look, the young guys especially, it's a lot thrown at them, and from the media obligations and just the demands on their time, just being secluded in this resort that is in the middle of nowhere. And I think getting on the practice field kind of gave them a measure of normalcy and like, all right, we're here to play football. And I think the guys were stoked about that.
Yeah, it's funny because everyone's like, yeah, just keep it normal. And then nothing's normal except being on the field, which is certainly welcomed by a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
This is Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Daily pods, we're keeping it going here. We're at Radio Row, dwindling Radio Row. There aren't many people left
more like
here.
Desolation Row.
But we wanted to wait until after the Eagles' availability, their press availability, before talking to you guys because we want to bring you all the latest. So it's still a daily pod. It's just coming in your feed a little bit later. But, Rube, you and I talked earlier, and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they each have press conferences, and it just struck us how comfortable these two are in their skin, especially in front of the congregated media of, hundreds of people.
Yeah, and I couldn't help thinking, like, Nick was up there today, and how many people were in the room? We're in a big, like, hotel ballroom with, I don't know, like 300 chairs set up, and how many TV cameras in the back of the room? 30, 40? It's crazy. And, people from all over the world, and every major outlet has, like, multiple people there. And he was so smooth and so self-assured, so, like you said, comfortable. And I started thinking about, it's only been 2 years since his introductory press conference and just how far he's come. And I remember writing that night, I wrote a column saying, press conferences don't win football games. This is irrelevant in the big picture. But it does just show how he's able to handle the moment. He's still a young coach. He's only in his second year as a head coach on any level. He's at the Super Bowl, and he really commanded the audience. And he was so relaxed. Some guy, like at these press conferences, everybody, they have a mics that go around, and the PR people from the league hand people the mics. They raise their hand, and then you identify yourself. I'm Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia. And he asks your question. So somebody today says, hey, Nick, I'm Scott McLaughlin from 96.5, The Score. And Nick says, what city's that in? I just thought was like, he's so detail oriented. And the guy's like, oh, Louisville. It's like, that just, like, to me, that was really a cool moment because it just showed how engaged he was and how into the moment he was. And I thought it was a really cool moment. I don't know if anybody else did, but that's how it struck me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think of that moment specifically, but I think it's a confidence thing. And I think that was the fear when that first press conference happened. And I thought it was unfair at the time too. We talked about it on the podcast back then. Like, that's not going to be what you judge him on. But, way back when it was a first-year head coach. So you're wondering, like, is this all too much for him too quickly? And then obviously the start of that season didn't alleviate that right away. But you wondered, like, is he going to be confident enough? Is he going to be overwhelmed at times? To see him just own a stage like that, it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, it was. It was really striking to me. A lot more than anything he said.
Yeah, he didn't say much.
But it was the way he said it.
The rest of the national and international media got to learn his stance on talking about injuries a little bit.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. Like, and somebody was like, Nick, Travis Kelce's a really dangerous player. How are you going to cover him? Like, well, we don't really give that away at press conferences. You can ask the Philly guys, but yeah, he was. It just says something. He was more comfortable with the national media and the international media than he was with the Philly media. Now, that was a Zoom call, and he's sitting in an empty auditorium looking into a camera.
Yeah. And Jeffrey Lurie had just spoken 50 minutes straight.
yeah, he had. Some brief introductory remarks from Mr. Lurie, like an hour later, with no further ado. But anyway, yeah, it was cool to see.
It was, and Jalen too. Jalen's always had the ability to dazzle us with his words, and he chooses not to, and that's fine. It's his process. He's a guarded guy a lot, but it's been fun watching him on the stage because he gets that it is a cool experience, and he can enjoy it, and he can have some fun, and he can show his personality, and we've seen that a little bit.
Yeah, and I didn't know how that would go, honestly, because he's very guarded, very short answers most of the time with us. But he's really kind of embraced the moment, and it's good to see. He's a 24-year-old kid on this like incredible stage, and I thought he's really handled it with aplomb. And again, his answers aren't like anything. Like, I'm not writing a story about what he said because it's the same stuff he's been saying all year. You know, the whole team works hard. We're really dedicated. We know that. But just the kind of back and forth with like some of the international guys, making eye contact with people, just really listening to the questions and trying to be a little bit entertaining, kind of trying to embrace the moment a little bit. He's not going to be up there, country dancing if he's asked, like Jalen Mills, I think it was, did a couple years ago. But he has let his guard down, and I think it's a good sign. It means he's relaxed, he's comfortable, he likes being here. I wasn't sure if he would kind of withdraw even more into a shell, but he hasn't, and it's been good to see.
Yeah, and I finally got to ask him a question after 3 days. I haven't been able to get close to the dude for, since we've been here because there's just been this giant crowd around him. So,
and Dave was determined to get the first question today at Jalen's
the poor
presser.
PR guy, I'm barking at him before Jalen's even in the room.
He's like, "Give me the frickin' mic."
But even that was fun because I wanted to ask him about that specifically, about being here and enjoying the moment, because he normally doesn't give himself that opportunity.
Yeah.
But he mentioned they were just playing some card games with his teammates. They were playing Uno and spades. You a big Uno guy?
No.
Really?
I've never played Uno.
Never played Uno?
No.
We might have a live podcast coming pretty soon where we just play Uno in the off season.
No, I no.
You wouldn't want to?
No. Sure, we'll do that.
I don't think that's going to happen the way you said that. I wanted to ask him about his rules for Uno because everyone kind of plays differently.
Yeah, everyone has got different Uno rules.
Yeah.
What, is it a card game? I don't even know what it is. I don't know what Uno is.
Yeah, it's a card game.
Well, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never played Uno.
Yeah, but okay. It's a pretty I feel like everyone.
He didn't know who Sam Bankman-Friedman was. So like we're even here. I don't know what Uno is.
Yeah, that's exactly the same.
It is. Whatever his name is.
Yeah, you know who he is too.
Sam Bankman-Fried. There's no man. It's Sam Bankman-Fried.
Who's that again?
He's the crypto guy who allegedly in some trouble.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble. Throw that allegedly in there.
It's like the authorities are saying it's like it makes Bernie Madoff look like a petty crime.
I know Uno better than that. That might say more about me than what's his name?
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Google it.
I feel like I'm a little punch drunk after
So my brother and I made up a card game when we were kids. It was called Three of a Color. And how you played was you would take like 30 decks of cards, mix them all up, put them in a cigar box, and then everybody who was playing would get 4 cards. And if you had 2 black cards and 2 red cards, it was a jackpot. You got no points.
Okay.
If you got 3 red cards or 3 black cards, then you added up the total of those 3 cards and subtracted the number of the 4th card, the card of the other color. So it was possible to lose points on a 3 of a color because you could get like a 2, an ace, and a 3, and get a 9, you -3. Who wants to be -3? But you would, that's how it went. And then there was like if you got 4 of a color, you add them up and double them.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
that, I mean, if you get 4 of a color, you're winning.
Yeah. Well, we would play to 10,000.
There wasn't a lot going on in this
The
house.
games would go on for months on our porch in
Goodness
Teaneck, New
gracious.
Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, it was it was like those. What's the game they play in England? The cricket. The games go on for like weeks.
Yeah,
that's what 3 of a color was.
I was gonna say I'd play with you. I don't think I have the. Yeah, I don't think
I'll play Uno if you play 3 of a color.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's cool though.
Alex is like, shut up.
It is fun to see Jalen on that stage.
Yeah,
and he's owning it, and that's all you want to see. And I don't think any of this is going to be a distraction. He's still very locked in. I don't think you have to worry about that with him. But I think everyone who has played in the Super Bowl will tell you that enjoy the experience, because he's in his second year as a starter. We all think there's a good chance he'll be back here a lot in his career, but you just never know.
I wonder, like he talks to Peyton and Eli, Donovan. He talks to a lot of guys who've been here. I wonder, I'll bet he got some advice from some of those guys about, enjoy it a little bit. Don't, just kind of let your guard down, enjoy it. You do the work, you stay true to the process, but have some fun.
Yeah.
I'll bet somebody told him that.
Yeah, that's good advice too.
It really is.
Sure. Walk through today. So there was an injury report, our first injury report.
Dave was really excited. He's like, ooh, our first injury report.
You know me too well. Looking good. Things are looking good here for the Eagles. They're going to have all 22 starters, barring something happening during practice the next couple of days. The limited guys, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Avonte Maddox, all with their injuries plus rest. That designation means that, we know they're limited, but they're going to play. We're getting them to Sunday. And then a couple guys were full participants. Landon Dickerson with that elbow injury.
That's good news.
Robert Quinn with the foot injury.
That's irrelevant. Sorry.
Poor Robert Quinn catching strays. But yeah, I mean, the one that I guess we've been watching is Avonte.
Yeah.
And he told me on media night that the boot last week was just precautionary, and that seems to be the case. So all good news injury-wise. We'll see Landon Dickerson.
These boots were made precaution.
Jeez. Landon Dickerson.
Really sorry.
Landon Dickerson will probably wear a brace on that elbow during the game, but we'll see. I mean, that's something else to watch in the game, because he'll be dealing with Chris Jones, and you want to see if he has full strength, and we probably won't know that until game time. But,
yeah. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. The other big bit of news from the walkthrough today, and Lindsey Jones did a nice job. She's the pool reporter. That's the way it works. They assign a pool reporter for the AFC practice and for the NFC practice. Found out that they played Creed again at the walkthrough. They did this before the NFC Championship game. They did it again, and we found out the culprit behind this is Lane Johnson. Asked Nick Sirianni to play it, and apparently that's who started it in the NFC Championship game. So I asked Lane about it. I'm really digging deep here. The intrepid reporter on the ground here, he told me it's Chris Long's fault. Chris Long sent him that album cover, that iconic Creed album cover, a few weeks ago. It got stuck in Lane's head. He started singing it at practice. Before you know it, they're playing it at practice. They're playing at the walkthrough before the Super Bowl.
And we saw Chris Long.
We did. Chris Long was in the house today.
Did you interview him about that?
I asked him about it. I did not do an interview. He just smiled and said, "Yeah, me and Lane still talk."
The elephant in the room is that, like, Creed sucks. Like, it's just kind of like they just.
Yeah, but it's they suck, but it's fun because they suck.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's comical, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the fun of it.
Whereas Nickelback, they suck, but it's not fun.
No, that's fun too.
Really?
Because they really embrace that they suck. They kind of joke about it.
Really?
They joke about it more than Creed.
What about Imagine Dragons?
You're gonna make some people upset.
I don't care,
because they're not in that category where most people kind of agree that Nickelback.
I think everyone kind of agrees that Imagine Dragons suck.
I don't think that's true.
All right, we'll do a Twitter poll.
When
Twitter comes back up in a few weeks.
I mean, they were playing at the Wells Fargo Center, weren't they?
Oh, they're popular.
That means people like them.
Well, I mean, it only takes 18,000. If there's how many people in the world? 8 billion. It's easy to find 18,000 to go see a concert.
They don't all live in Philadelphia.
You're getting too technical now.
But so today, the way the schedule's been working is the Chiefs' availability was early in the morning. Eagles were kind of later in the afternoon. So we said, let's wake up early. Let's go meet the Chiefs. And we saw a beautiful sunrise on our drive to Scottsdale, where the Chiefs are hunkered down for the week. It was good. It was good to see Andy Reid. You made a brazen move at that press conference.
Yeah.
So Reuben mentioned they have the microphones, but it was like an awkward silence. Andy's just standing up there, and they hadn't like passed out the mics. So Rube just cut the tension from the back of the room. You hear, Andy.
I didn't stutter like that. I say, Andy. I said, hey, Andy, good to see you.
I think it's truth is in the middle somewhere.
Okay. But it was good to see him.
It was good to see Andy, and so much of that staff we know.
Yeah. Greg Lewis asked me when I was going to retire.
How to make you feel good.
He's like, oh, good to see you, Rube. You still doing this? Like, how many more years are you going to do this?
I forget. Was that you, Alex? I think it was like that's normally a question we're asking players.
Yeah.
How long you want to play? He's turning the tables on you.
Oh, and he said to remind everybody back in Philly that he was the first wide receiver to ever catch a Super Bowl touchdown for the Eagles. And he says, Alshon caught one too, but I was first. And he said, but Alshon won.
Yeah, I think Alshon won that one.
He might have won that one. But it was good to see him. And he talked about kind of going from wide receivers coach to running backs coach. We had a nice chat about that. And,
you talked to Eric Bieniemy for quite a while.
Yeah, so Eric Bieniemy played on the '99 Eagles, and listen to this. I'm not going to go on too long about this. I have a story popping up tomorrow morning, which is Thursday or Wednesday.
Thursday.
Tomorrow's Thursday. So on Andy's first coaching staff, Jim Johnson, Rod Dowhauer, Brad Childress, David Culley, Leslie Frazier, John Harbaugh, Sean McDermott, Ron Rivera, Pat Shurmur, Steve Spagnuolo, who's sitting a few feet from us, all became head coaches. Doug Peterson played on that team, became a head coach. Obviously, Deuce was on that team. Mike Caldwell, who's Doug's new D coordinator, was with Tampa. He played on that team. And Eric Bieniemy was on the team as a backup running back. And, now he's in his fifth year as the Chiefs O coordinator, his 10th year with Andy. And he just talked about what it was like being in that atmosphere with all those future coaches and just how much that inspired him to want to be a coach. And just here he is now. It's a great story. And I was worried I wouldn't even be able to get a question in because, I thought Chiefs offensive coordinator would be mobbed. I talked to him for 17 minutes and nobody else came over. And I think there's a lot fewer people that cover the Chiefs than the Eagles. Because it was a lot easier to get guys like, than it is in the Eagles media availability. But Eric, we all know his story about not getting a head coaching job. He's a really positive guy. He's got a great attitude. He says, if I'm coordinator the rest of my life, that's a great job. So had a good talk with him. It's really incredible the coaching talent that came out of that 99 team that finished last in the NFC East, but sprang so many great careers and. Like you said, we really were the cradle of the coaches.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It is.
Yeah. I caught up with Ken Flagel.
Yeah.
Who was the Eagles linebackers coach when they won the Super Bowl. And
2017.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for clarifying
sure.
that. There were whispers he was going to retire after the 2020 season, and then all of a sudden he was in Kansas City with Andy Reid, who he's known forever. They go back into the 80s, maybe before then.
50s. Andy and Tom Melvin first worked together in in 80 at San Francisco State or something.
Yeah, it's almost as far back with Flagel and him. So he said he wasn't going to come back and coach for anyone.
I love the story.
And I asked him, well, why did you? And he said, well, Andy was a big part of it, but he said, my wife told me I was putting the dishes in the dishwasher wrong, so had to get out of the house a little bit.
So I went and got a job as a linebackers coach in Missouri.
Yeah. He's fun to talk to him. I also got a chance. I did a lot of stupid stuff today now that I say it out loud.
Today?
And it was another Chris Long thing. I asked him. We knew that Chris had gotten the tattoo of Flagel's face on him, but I got to ask Ken about it, and he said it at one of the the barbecues that Jeff Lurie throws before the training camp each year, Flagel goes up to Chris's wife and introduces himself and says, "Hi, I'm Ken Flagel. Nice to meet you." And she goes, "I know who you are. I wake up next to your face every morning."
Yeah,
that was good. Football. I did get some football stuff from the Chiefs. I asked a bunch of their defensive linemen about this O-line and about the challenge of it. And Chris Jones was really complimentary, but he said, like, we're looking forward to it though, because like we think we're pretty good too. And just that he said, everyone to a man said the things that stand out, that they play as a unit. You can tell these guys have played a lot together, and that they're super athletic. And it starts with Jason Kelsey, obviously. Kalen Sanders told me he looks like a tight end out there playing center. But I think
might be one of the family.
Yeah,
I think I read that this week.
Maybe. But I thought that was interesting that they're kind of relishing this opportunity against the best offensive line in the league. And Saunders even told me, he's like, everyone thinks the Chiefs' defensive line is Chris Jones and a bunch of other guys have liked that they can fly under the radar.
It's interesting. You mentioned the continuity they have on the line. And Stout was actually talking about, he said he used to chart every national championship game, how many games each offensive line had played together. And he said that the O-line that had played more games together, they like almost always won the game.
That's fascinating.
I love that he tracked that. Yeah. So
yeah, I really like that.
I could sit and talk to Stout for, well, I did. I sat there for an hour talking to him. Most of the hour I was with Stout. So he goes and sits. Each table has a number, and each coach and player is assigned a number, and you go find that table number, and you sit down. There's like usually two at most tables. Stout was there sitting with Andre Dillard, and they were at table 13. And Stout sits down, and he announces that he's superstitious, and he goes, "I'm turning this freaking number upside down." He takes the 13, he turns it upside down. He's like, "That's table 31 now." And it was table 31 the rest of the day.
The best part of that is Nick Sirianni, a half hour earlier, said how much he doesn't believe in superstition, and that he tells all of his coaches to knock it off.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
he's probably talking about Stout.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Before we get to this read, Rube, Alex gave me a good note. Imagine Dragons have 57 million monthly Spotify listeners.
Yeah, those numbers are rigged.
Except when they work in our favor.
Right. How many?
57 million.
We heard one of my favorite songs on Sirius. Oh, can we mention Sirius XM? Why not? On the way to Chiefs this morning at like 7 o'clock, they played Whiskey Bottle by Uncle Tupelo. I think the guys were rocking in the car. Jay Farrar, a genius. At Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is yours. Now get great offers across our full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
One guy was not rocking in the car. He was worried about us missing our exit off the highway.
At least one.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in the great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opioid addiction is a national public health crisis. The Someone You Know podcast from the Independence Blue Cross Foundation offers inspiring stories that challenge stigma, offer hope, and humanize the disease of addiction. Download the new Season 3 of Someone You Know on all major podcast platforms. Rube, time for our points bet segment here.
These are fun.
I thought we'd have a lot of fun with this one. This is going to be the stupidest one we do so far. First team to call a timeout. These odds are very predictable. Eagles plus 100, Chiefs minus 130.
Andy's gotten better at time management, clock management, but
he set the bar low.
That's so true. It's also Nick's first Super Bowl. It's Andy's fourth.
True.
I'm gonna say Eagles.
Eagles to call the first time
out.
I'm gonna go with Chiefs. We'll keep track of these. We won't keep track of any of the real bets, but
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Heads or tails, they're both minus 105. It's basically the same, but it is the same.
Doesn't come out heads because the head weighs more than
I don't think that's true. When you call a coin flip, where do you go? What do you say?
I don't know if I've ever done that. I've never been a captain of a football team.
You never flipped a coin with friends about?
I don't have friends. I told you that.
This is explaining a lot of who would I play Uno with?
That's
There's
right.
no one here. Gatorade.
Eagle Eye's now sponsored by Baked Beans.
Yellow lime green plus 175, orange plus 300, blue plus 300, red plus 550, clear water plus 750, purple long shot plus 900.
I think lemon lime.
Yeah, it was lemon lime in the championship game when they dumped it on him.
Yeah.
But if you're a player, you know what you're picking up.
Yeah.
You know what you're picking up there.
Yeah.
Not saying, just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
It's true.
It's time to get your swagger back with PointsBet Sportsbook. PointsBet, your move. Rube, we want to finish off here. Very ironically, talking about the smart guys the Eagles have on defense.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking to Gannon about. He was really fired up today. He was telling us some stories after availability that were great. But yeah, I was really struck by how quickly this defense came together early in the season with so many new pieces. You talk about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got here after camp was over. Kaiser White first year, Hassan Reddick first year. Reed Blankenship ended up playing first year. He wasn't active the first few weeks, but Brandon Graham didn't play last year. Marcus Epps wasn't a starter last year. James Bradbury wasn't here last year, and just how quickly it all came together. And he just said what an emphasis they put on. He said, "Look, this is a really complicated defense. We disguise a lot of things. We change things up. He said it's really." He said, I think at one point he said, it's so complicated, it makes me nauseous. and he said, when we sat down with Howie after last season ended, to go over our needs, he said, I just really emphasized we need really smart guys across the board on this defense because it's not an easy defense to master, to learn. And he said they did that. He said these guys, and he talked specifically about, he actually mentioned Marcus Epps. He said he's one of the smartest players he's ever been around. He said, he might not be the fastest guy or the biggest guy, but he's one of the smartest players. I mean, there's a lot of safeties who wouldn't be able to play in this defense just because what we ask him to do mentally, there's just the adjustments and he said all those guys, every one of those guys, he said, the cornerbacks don't have to be smart, but he said, we have smart corners. They're both really, really smart. Don't let Slay fool you, even though he's kind of a little clown.
Oh, man. He's
very smart player. Yeah, and Bradbury, too. So it was really interesting. It's you don't think, you're always looking at guys 40 times and shuttle runs and all that, measurables and how many reps they do. But for Gannon, he said, he said, I'd rather have smart guys who are average athletes than great athletes who just aren't going to pick it up. And he said, that's what we have.
Yeah, that's really cool. You're writing about that later in the week.
I don't know what day.
Yeah. You also have the Eric Bieniemy story coming.
Yeah.
Looking forward to reading that again. I have a story coming on Roy Estevan talking about Jeff Stoutland. I think I talked about
formerly that. Roy Estevan. We thought it was.
Yeah. Shane Spikeman corrected me and said it's Roy Estevan.
It's Steichen.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You got anything else?
I talked to Jason and Michelle today. No.
All right.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. If you're one of the people who begged us for daily podcasts and you haven't done that, do it now, please. All right. That's it for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you tomorrow.